Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's not exactly how we would have liked to have done this evening. We would have loved to have had everybody in the school hall, but we're live on Teams. So thank you very much for joining us. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Jo Lockwood, and I'm the Chair of Governors here at the Mandeville School. And I'm delighted to introduce Matthew Larmony as our permanent head teacher at the Mandeville School. And we've also got joining us tonight Garrett Fay, CEO from Insignis, and Gaynor Bull, Chair of Trustees from Insignis. Tonight is the start of a really important stage of the consultation, following my recent letters to you and our board decision to pursue joining a multi-academy trust. Garrett and Gaynor will present to you some information about Insignis, and we really want to have your feedback and your questions on that presentation. The opportunity for you to send your feedback and to ask those questions will be detailed in the presentation. It will be via Microsoft Forms. We're not in a position tonight to be able to open up the floor and take questions in the same way as we would if we were in the hall. So I'm going to hand over to Matthew now. And Matthew's just going to talk to you for a short moment before handing over to Garrett.
Hello everyone. It's really good to be able to just speak to you live as head teacher of the school. I've actually been at the school since July, but this is my first real opportunity for a live event. This evening is a really important one for the school because it's beginning the consultation process regarding us joining an academy trust. And as has been said before, I hope this is the springboard for your contributions and your feedback on this highly important process. I do want to really focus on that this evening, but also want to say that I really look forward in future to be able to meet parents in person and really get to know the school community more broadly. So I'm just going to hand over now to Garrett Fay from Insignis, who's going to talk us through the consultation process, but also share some more information about Insignis and what a future relationship between the Mandeville School and Insignis might look like and might involve. So I'm going to hand over to him now.
Thank you, Matthew. Hello, everybody. Very pleased to to meet you all in this sort of virtual way. And as Matthew said, I'm joined by and Joe said I'm joined by Gaynor Bull, who's our Chair of Trustees, on the call tonight as well. So we've got both aspects of management and governance represented. I'm going to go through a presentation with you, and I apologise I won't be able to see anything apart from the presentation, but it's got some key information about the consultation and the statutory elements that we need to really go through as part of this process. I just really want to emphasise at this stage that we are, and there's a bit about this in the presentation too, but just to emphasise it at the beginning. At this stage, a final decision has not been reached, and we are really consulting with all stakeholders, which is staff, parents, carers, and the wider community, about people's thoughts and feelings on this. And the outcomes of that decision will go back to the Mandeville Schools Governing Board. So the Mandeville Schools Governing Board make the decision on what happens next, really. And I'll talk a little bit more about that through the presentation. But just to reiterate with everybody that this is a formal and a statutory process that we will be going through. So let me just share my screen, which I think everybody should be able to see. And click on the slideshow. Okay, so that's myself and Gaynor, and I've already said to staff at Mandeville today that I obviously need to update my photograph because that's a terrible mugshot. But let me work through the key aspects of the consultation. So first of all, Insignis is very much a local multi-academy trust. We currently comprise of Princess Risborough School in Princess Risborough, Sir Henry Floyd Grammar School in Aylesbury, and we've just been we've just been appointed as the Multi-Academy Trust designate to run the new Kingsbrook School on the new Kingsbrook development, which is due to open in September 2022, and we're very, 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 very excited about that. So this is our formal consultation with stakeholders. As part of this process of academisation, we have to go through a statutory consultation with the stakeholders of the Mandeville School. As I said a few minutes ago, this is the third stage of the process towards becoming an academy and joining a multi-academy trust. And this consultation is with the wider stakeholder group, and we really want to engage with the whole community on this conversion discussion. Responses to the consultation will be considered, and they will form the final decision of the governing board of the Mandeville School as to whether to proceed. And just so you know, we met with staff from the school today. We shared exactly the same PowerPoint, so that there's no difference in the two PowerPoints. And one of the things we made very clear to them at that point was this is not a consultation about conditions of employment or anything else like that. This is just simply about becoming an academy. So the elements of the consultation. The first one is that the consultation should be undertaken when the proposals for the subject of the consultation are at a formative stage and concluded before any final decision is taken. The consultation should provide enough information to those consulted to enable them to comment intelligently on the proposals. I'll explain that a little bit more in a couple of minutes. The consultation should allow enough time for those consulted to enable them to properly consider the proposals. The consultation responses should be specifically considered by the decision maker, and that would be the governing body of the Mandeville School, when deciding whether or not to implement the proposals. And let's go through these different parts of the process. So the first one, the consultation should be undertaken when proposals for the subject of the consultation are at a formative stage and concluded before any final decision is taken. So at this point, the governing board of the Mandeville School and the trustees of IAT, which is Insignis Academy Trust, are involved in a due diligence process whereby the governing body are assessing Insignis's suitability to work with the Mandeville School, and in a similar way, the trustees of Insignis are inspecting the financial estate and other aspects of the Mandeville School to ensure that by working with the Mandeville School, we don't jeopardise the working functions of the other schools within the trust. So this is all being explored at the moment, and then following this, a submission is then made to the Regional Schools Commissioner's Head Teachers Board, and actually the Head Teacher Board will have the final say. So following this process, if the decision is to become an academy and join the Insignis, the governing board and Insignis will submit information to the Head Teacher Board, and the Head Teacher Board will make the decision as to whether the school can academise and whether Insignis can be the organisation managing the school's affairs. So if you like, there's another layer of decision making over and above the governing bodies and the trustees. On top of that, this particular process of the consultation is a very formal statutory process, and if this is not completed, then the Department for Education and the Secretary of State for Education will not sign off on the funding arrangement for the school, which means the academisation could not take place. So this is a very important part of the whole process. So the consultation should provide enough information to those consulted to enable them to comment intelligently on the proposals. So what that really means is that we are supporting this process to enable you to comment on your thoughts and feelings about whether Mandeville should become an academy. Joe has already or is about to communicate to all of you with the consultation document, which you'll be able to read at length. It's got lots of information in there that will help stimulate questions and provides the link to where to send your inquiries via the the Microsoft form. All that information that we receive from you will then be organised into grouped areas of concern, and each area will then be responded to. And our aim is hopefully to produce a set of FAQs around that, and that those pieces of information will be then presented to all stakeholders in and around the 2nd of July. That's the date we're really hoping for. Just to comment on the phrase to comment intelligently, that's the legal language around the process of the consultation. What I said to members of staff at the Mandeville School today was, don't feel like any question is not as important as another question. If there's something that you have a query about or a concern that you have, then please raise it. So, for example, if your child also takes part in organised sport that takes place as part of a letting at the Mandeville School in the evenings with an outside organisation running, let's say, a football club, and you're worried that that might not continue as a result of academisation, raise that as a question. That's a really good thing to respond to, and of course those things will absolutely continue, and everybody would want the opportunity. Everybody involved in the process would want the opportunity to be able to inform parents and stakeholders that all of those things will still continue as they do now. So the consultation should allow enough time for those consulted to enable them to properly consider the proposals. So the legal requirement is that the consultation must be at least 4 weeks and, if possible, 6 weeks in length, and that's calendar days as opposed to term date days or school days. So because of that, we've decided to hold the consultation over 6 weeks because we obviously have half term in about a week and a half, and we felt that because the process will be punctuated by a school holiday, that actually running it for the whole 6 weeks will be better than running it just for 4 weeks. So we hope that gives everybody enough time then to respond, and the consultation will end on Thursday the 1st of July at 3 p.m. What we're probably expecting is that over the next week and a half, we'll probably see a flurry of responses. That would be fantastic. And then, 6 weeks is a long time, and from doing other consultations, we know that actually things will start to tail off. We will remind you, and there will be information on the website, and Mr. Larmony, through his parental communications, will also remind you of it, so that anybody who's forgotten will be hopefully then prompted to raise an issue as part of the consultation process. So consultation responses should be specifically considered by the decision maker when deciding whether or not to implement the proposals. So as I said before, the Mandeville School governing body is the decision maker in this process. And we are using a Microsoft form to collect the responses of the consultation, and that will allow decision makers to review responses as they arrive, so we won't be delaying with a lengthy review of the information, because we'll be able to ensure that decision makers are getting information as it arrives. That also means that those FAQs can be produced on an ongoing basis, ready for publication on the 2nd of July, and just basically making sure that communication transfer internally is happening effectively, and the decision makers are kept up to date as to what the thoughts and feelings of the community are. And as I said, those FAQs should then hopefully be published on the 2nd of July. So there is a formal consultation question, and as part of this process, I'm afraid I'm actually going to read it out in full, because then we can say without a shadow of a doubt that stakeholders have been informed of the consultation question. Consultation question will also be at the top of the Microsoft form, and it's also embedded in the letter that you'll receive from Joe Lockwood shortly as well. So the consultation question is as follows. After detailed consideration of a range of options for the future of the school, the Mandeville governors have made a decision to apply to become an academy. Joining the Insignis Academy Trust. Insignis is an Aylesbury-based multi-academy trust comprising Princess Risborough School, Sir Henry Floyd Grammar School, and the sponsor designate of the new secondary school in Kingsbrook, due to open in September 2022. The Insignis CEO, Gareth Fay, has supported the Mandeville School since March 2020. We welcome your views, positive or negative, on whether the conversion should take place. So that is, as I said, the consultation question. And in terms of your responses to the consultation, should be framed in and around the essence of that question. So, why Mandeville and why Insignis? The IAT vision is to provide an exceptional educational experience across all the schools within the trust. It's an ambitious vision statement, and it's one that we are very very committed to trying to achieve. And it is one that can only be achieved with co-cooperation between members of staff and parents and students at each individual school, and then across our schools as well. But we are very much committed to providing an exceptional education experience across all the schools in the trust. We want to develop students, and we believe that at Mandeville we will be able to continue to develop a value of collective responsibility for the standard of education across all of the schools in our trust. We'll be able to strive to share the best practice and drive school improvement to ensure that children are getting the best possible educational and social outcomes by being students at the Mandeville School. We will invest in our staff and the infrastructure of the school so that we can deliver quality education experiences for the children at the school and all of our other schools as well. We embrace support and challenge and meaningful assessment and evaluation, both internally in how we manage assessment, and externally in how we want to be quality assured to make sure that we're actually doing the right things to support the life chances of children that we're educating. We want to instill respect, responsibility, resilience and reflectiveness in our students. And I hope everybody would agree with me that as we emerge from the pandemic, this is going to be even more important than it probably was before, because like everybody else, children have taken a knock, and we know with children moving up from year 6 into year 7 for September 2021 that they're going to need even more time to transition into secondary school than children would normally. And we want to ensure that we develop emotional intelligence, compassion, and communication skills. The way we talk about things internally at IAT is really simple. That if people haven't come into education because they have a caring nature towards children and want to see them grow and develop, then that doesn't fit in with our ethos. We really want children, parents, and staff to feel welcome and part of the community that they work in, and safe in that community as well. So, why Mandeville? So without a doubt, the Mandeville School has huge potential, and having been involved with the school since March last year, when Mrs. Shepherd stepped aside, I'm even more convinced now of the potential of the school. It was something that was really positive for me to have been involved in over this just over a year, and I'm really proud of the improvements that we've seen at the school in that time. And I think working with Mr. Larmony has been incredibly important in that period as well. I think he's done a fantastic job, both he and his team. The Mandeville School has been disproportionately affected by changes in school leadership, and we really hope to bring some stability by supporting the school to reduce the amount of flux. As I said to staff today, we during this process of support, I had somebody externally conduct a review of something, and as part of that, that person had to, he asked me for a list of all the previous head teachers going back to the most substantive, which would have been Mr. Patchett, who started at the school in 1998. The piece of paper that I gave him had 2 sides of A4 full of names between 1998 and it was November I gave him that piece of paper. 2 sides of A4 constituted the people who have been in charge of or running the school since 1998, and that's just not good enough, and particularly because Mr. Patchett, actually I think he retired in 2012, so the majority of those names were there in the past 9 years, and that's just a huge amount of churn for the school, constantly having to reevaluate the ideas of a new head teacher coming in. And we just want to see some stability so that we can really focus on just making sure that the children are getting the best education experience and staff feel safe and secure to deliver that in an environment that's not going to keep changing around them all of the time. The Mandeville School is a community school, and we believe that it builds on the excellent work that the local primary feeder schools achieve. 2 of the best performing primary schools in the county are feeder schools for Mandeville School, and what we really want to do is build on that really strong success that those children have finishing year 6, and then when they join Mandeville School they continue on that really positive educational journey and do really well, and that every child makes the appropriate progress that they should make in their GCSEs, allowing them to go on to A levels, hopefully at Mandeville, and if not, at another school of their choice, and then hopefully they may also want to go on to apprenticeships or university in the future as well. So we'll really want to make sure that they have all of those opportunities available to them. The Mandeville School deserves a real chance to flourish, and Insignis wants to be part of that school's improvement journey. We have been, in terms of the work that I've been doing with the school. When I started supporting Mandeville in March 2020, I was actually the executive head teacher at St Michael's in High Wycombe and Aylesbury, and since then I moved across to Insignis in November 2020, but my work has continued with the school, and as I said earlier on, I'm really proud of what's been achieved in that time, and I think that there's huge potential for the school to keep continuing to develop. So we're a local multi-academy trust. I think that's an important thing to remember as well. We're based in Aylesbury and Princess Risborough. Our focus is on the Aylesbury Vale area. We have no intentions of becoming a national multi-academy trust or anything like that. We don't even have intentions of becoming a Buckinghamshire-wide or an Aylesbury-wide multi-academy trust. We want to grow carefully, and we want to grow in a way that it means that none of the schools are placed at a disadvantage because, for example, the multi-academy trust has grown too quickly. So we're a local multi-academy trust, and we are committed to working with our schools in a local way so that our teams can move between our schools to support as need be. We feel that we've got the capacity and the personnel to work with the Mandeville School to continue that improvement journey, and they're very committed to doing so. We have a really good track record of delivering school improvement and financial school improvements in particular. Mandeville this year has posted its first budget surplus in 15 years, and I'm so proud of the school for achieving that. And one of the key things about that is the work that we've been doing, in terms of the focusing on the budget and making the budget better without impacting negatively on the educational opportunities for children. So, we haven't had to lose huge amounts of teaching staff in order to enable that to happen. We've also seen big improvements in the financial situation at our other schools. And in terms of school improvement, obviously, Sir Henry Floyd is an outstanding school, and Princess Risborough is a rapidly improving school. Princess Risborough is a couple of years ahead of Mandeville on its particular journey, but we're very confident that when they're inspected again in 2022, that they will be recognised as a good school by Ofsted. So we're very positive about our ability to support school improvement going forward. And as an employer, and I think this is important for you as parents and stakeholders to recognise, and carers as well, that as an employer, we're also very committed to the well-being of our staff. So not just the well-being of our students, which obviously goes without saying. As I said to everybody today at the Mandeville School, that every employer says that they're committed to well-being, but I genuinely believe that we are. We offer a program called Perk Box for all of our staff members, which allows them to access significant discounts from high street brands and other things like free coffees and Cafe Nero and little treats like that. But it also offers them a counselling service, which has 24/7. They have 24/7 access to. We're looking to develop that even further and to work with a company called Health Assured, which will allow our staff to have even greater access to counselling and support about anything that might be going on in their lives, because we recognise that if our teaching staff or admin staff or support staff are not happy in their own personal lives, or they're struggling in their own personal lives, that may then affect how they're working with your child in school, and we want to make sure that they have all of the opportunities to deal with anything that might come at them externally. And also we are very committed to working with the Youth Sports Trust and working on their Well Schools project and a number of other projects that they have. And I'm a lead head teacher ambassador for the Youth Sports Trust and co-chair of their multi-academy trust advisory group. And I think the Well Schools project is a fantastic project. And if any of you have the chance, I would highly recommend going onto the Youth Sports Trust website and just having a look at some of the work they do, because they're a fantastic organisation. And we operate in a very open and transparent manner. We currently have just started a trust newsletter for all staff across all the schools to keep them up to date about what's going on at a trust level, so that everybody feels part of the family of Insignis. And as I said, we are going to be running the new Kingsbrook School. And yesterday I visited the site with Gaynor and our head of facilities, our CFO, and the school expansion team from Buckinghamshire Council, and it was brilliant going up to see what the site's going transform from. I took lots and lots of photographs with lots of diggers and holes dug in the ground, and they'll be going all over our trust newsletter at the end of next week. And we will then start a program whereby over the next year, as the school is being built, that members of staff at all of the Insignis schools get the opportunity to go and visit the site if they want to and see what it looks like. And then when the school opens, we do the same, so that again people feel part of the family of Insignis rather than being just a member of just their own school, because I think that's a very important part about what we're doing. We get involved with schools and school life, and the Insignis Central team, so that's myself, CFO, the HR team, the facilities team, we actually work, and the finance team, we actually work across all of the schools. So we're in and out of the schools every week. I actually visit Mandeville every Thursday and have been doing since schools reopened in September, and before that did an awful lot of virtual visits, a little bit like this, between March and September last year. So we're not an absent group. We are very involved, and we're very engaged with members of staff. We want them to know who the central team are, so that again everybody feels part of that family of being in the Academy Trust. So just in terms of how we will work across the schools, which is something that I'm sure there's parents and stakeholders and carers you'll be very interested to know about. We currently run across trust leadership groups, so I meet for 2 hours, at least 2 hours, every Wednesday with the 2 head teachers and the chief financial officer, and we discuss strategy together at those meetings. So it is while there's always hierarchies in management structures, we discuss things at a flat level as well, and we do talk about things that we're all going to work on, and we bring conversations from each of the different schools to that, and we share as a result. There's a weekly resources meeting where the CFO, the facilities manager, and the HR manager meet with the head teachers to make sure that they're up to date on all the key information that they need to be. And we also have a cross-trust wellbeing group with senior leaders from the schools working with the HR team on developing our wellbeing agenda. And we're in the process of developing cross-trust safeguarding special educational needs and initial teacher training groups, because with safeguarding SEND and initial teacher training, the experience that people have should really be the same, whether they walk into Princess Risborough or they walk into Mandeville or the Sir Henry Floyd Grammar School. They should have the same feeling at each of the schools in terms of this is a safe environment, children are safe, staff understand safeguarding, how we organise SEND should be in a similar way. And obviously we've got really good experience of that with having a special needs ARP at Princess Risborough. And again, with initial teacher training, it means we can grow our own teachers in our own schools, which will have a massive financial saving on recruitment costs to everybody. And also they can do what's called their second school placement by going to other schools within the Multi-Academy Trust. And we'll be able to coordinate that and make that a more seamless process for them, which will just mean they'll have a much better training experience and therefore be better teachers in the classroom. And then we want to build to introduce more curriculum cross-trust work as well. So that would be working at an academic level. And just to be really clear about that, that's heads of departments and members of departments working together, looking at things, developing strategies and solutions themselves. That is not the Multi-Academy Trust telling everybody that they have to study the same English curriculum. That's not what we're about. Each school has the freedom to develop their curriculum within their budget constraints and in consultation to make sure that it's the right curriculum model. And secondly, they have each individual school will choose what exam board they want to offer for maths, English, and whatever other subject they want to do at A-level and GCSE. So it's more about giving the professionals the opportunity to come together and talk and develop strategies of work together. We want to build a self-sustaining model of school improvement, which is, cost effective and is based on collaborative work between professionals at the schools. And we are planning to work with an organisation called Challenge Partners to help us facilitate that. That will allow senior and senior middle leaders to go and visit other schools across the country and to see how they're doing things, and then for other people to come in and see what we're doing, and for everybody to quality assure each other in that process as well. And we're also joining Challenge Partners at a trust level, so that actually I will be able to go out and visit other trusts and see what other trusts are doing, quality assure their work, and then they'll come in and do the same to us as well, so that we're always going to have other people coming in and challenging us on our provision to make sure that we're offering the best possible provision that we can. We're committed to cross-trust CPD, and which is continuing professional development for all members of staff at the school. Sometimes CPD at schools can be focused mainly on teachers, but actually every single member of the school workforce needs to be able to access CPD to develop their skills and develop the skills across the trust. And as I said earlier on, we will be working on the concept of joint practice development. Many of you will have heard the phrase before, which is sharing good practice. I prefer to use the concept of joint practice development rather than sharing good practice, because sharing good practice suggests that somebody's better than somebody else. Joint practice development means that everybody's bringing information to the consultation equally, and people will then be able to tease out what they think might be the strongest way of working as a result of sharing all that information. So we will be doing that with our professionals as we move through the next academic year. And as we grow, and in particular with the development of the Kingsbrook School, we'll be able to offer members of staff within our schools the opportunity for promotional opportunities across the trust. I think one of the really exciting things about that is just recently an assistant head teacher from Sir Henry Floyd was appointed as the deputy at the Princess Risborough School. He had to go through a rigorous open competition, but he was the strongest candidate, and he was appointed, which is brilliant. And we do believe that the senior leaders and the middle leaders for the Kingsbrook School are already working in our schools now. So we're really quite excited about the idea of being able to keep people within the family of the Multi-Academy Trust, but still give them the opportunity to grow and develop their careers. And that only means better teaching and better quality teaching and better opportunities for all of your children and the wider communities at our schools as well. So we have a highly developed and highly skilled workforce of an exemplary standard that through their work and senior leadership guidance strives to deliver an outstanding experience for all. Above all else, we foster and ensure that all students are welcome, valued, and have a place within our local school communities. And this is now an aim of the Trust. This was our previous vision statement, but is now one of our aims, which is to improve the quality of educational experiences of young people locally. We changed our vision so that it would be even more aspirational than this was, but this then still remains a key aim, because no matter how good a school is, whether it's outstanding, whether it's good, whether it's requiring improvement, it will always require support and expertise to always ensure that the educational experiences of young people are as good as they possibly can be. Okay, so that is my presentation, and I'm not sure now. I just need to hand back to Joe Lockwood, but I'm not quite sure how to do that. It's over to you already, Joe.
Thanks, Garrett. Thank you very much for that really insightful presentation. We did ask for questions in advance of this evening so that we would have the opportunity to talk through some of those questions. As like we said, unfortunately, we're not able to take the questions live this evening. I'm just going to take the first couple of those questions, and then Garrett's going to answer some of the other ones for us. Two of the questions we had, which I've sort of grouped together, is why now? Why is now the right time to be considering this? And what are the risks of not joining this academy or another academy? A key part of our role as the governing board at the school is to consider the strategic direction of the school to deliver the best experience and the best outcome for our students and for our community. And in terms of why now, for us, now is the right time to really consider the next stage of our progression. And in those discussions, we agreed as a board that being part of a local family would be really be the best way for us to continue to achieve that. That the school has worked so hard over so many years now to improve and to continue to get that great experience for our students, and now really feels like the right time to move that to the next stage, really, which is like I say, to be part of something larger. I think the other thing that we need to consider in terms of risk is that not only is there a risk to the trajectory of our improvement by continuing as we are, but there is also a risk that we could be directed by the Regional Schools Commission through the Regional Schools Commission and the Department for Education to actually be directed to join an academy trust, and we felt it was really important for the school that we consider that at this stage, so that any decision that we make about the future of the school, we play a significant role in as the governors of the school and as the broader Mandeville community. So that covers those two questions, and there were some further questions, more specific questions, that I'm going to hand over to Garrett to answer.
Thanks, Jo. Yeah, I've got some questions, and again they kind of group together, but I'll just go through them. So one of the first ones was, would the merging of the school into a multi-academy trust have an impact on the curriculum? I think the simple answer to that is not specifically. The curriculum, the DFE really have kind of outlined what the curriculum should look like at secondary school, and the work that Mr. Larmony has been doing as the head teacher over the past year, as the acting head teacher over the past year, has been ensuring that Mandeville actually has a really good curriculum offer. That's the right curriculum for the school and for the students at the school. It's not an identical curriculum to, say, for example, the Princess Risborough curriculum. There are aspects of it that are similar, but it's not identical. So I don't see any significant change in the curriculum model at the school. The one key thing is always that the curriculum needs to keep pace with the expectations from the Department for Education nationally, and that means that curriculum is always reviewed to ensure that students have the right access to the right subjects, and that students are able to achieve the appropriate number of GCSEs to enable them for the next steps in their education, whether it be A levels, to go to college, or to go on to do an apprenticeship. So at each point, the curriculum will be reviewed to make sure it's always offering the best possible experience for children to learn and grow and develop. Will teaching resources be shared? And if yes, are they managed centrally or by each school? So teaching resources are developed by each individual school. As I explained earlier on, we do want to develop curriculum groups to give professionals the opportunity to not have to continually reinvent the wheel, but to share good ideas between each other, and to develop through joint practice development, you know, things that they can work on and share, and that can be worked on by pupils across all of the schools. But that's not going to be a top-down directive from the central team or from me as the Chief Executive Officer, because I need to trust that the head teachers in each individual school are able to manage their curriculums and their subject leaders and the resources that those subject leaders are developing for their students. One of the questions was, what experience does the Academy have to manage a non-grammar secondary school? So as I explained earlier on, obviously Princess Risborough is part of the Multi-Academy Trust already, and my previous experience as the executive head teacher at St Michael's in High Wycombe and Aylesbury is a big factor in that experience as well. St Michael's wasn't a grammar school, but it was a very it became a very high-performing school in the county. And previous to that, I was a deputy head teacher at another Catholic school in Luton, which was also a very high-performing school. So the experience of supporting a non-grammar school, I suppose, is not that dissimilar to supporting a grammar school. It's all about making sure that the right curriculum offer is in place, that we have the right staff to deliver it, and that we have the right processes and procedures to make sure that everybody's supported in making the progress that they need to make towards their potential at the end of their different points of assessment. And how we get there might look a little bit different in every single school. It's not one hard and fast rule. So if Mandeville were to join, how we support students at Mandeville would be not exactly the same as to how we support students in Princess Risborough, because each school is different, each cohort of child is different, and the context of the schools are different. So, you know, we need to fit in with those contexts. This is another one that's this is a very good question, actually. Having been a parent governor to an academy, to a secondary academy, the individual school input to policies is limited, and the broad academy remit doesn't always fit the socio-economic groups of students in poorer areas. How will these differences be managed? Well, I think first of all, there's a number of key policies that will always sit with the schools. So, for example, the school's behaviour policy is a school level policy, and that needs to be the case to ensure that each school is designing a policy for behaviour that fits in with the different contexts and needs of each individual school, and particularly how it might find itself at any one point. Other things like pay policies, they are central policies, and that makes more sense because the Multi-Academy Trust is the employer. So the policies that are in place are actually very malleable from the point of view of the individual head teachers and the individual local governing boards, and also through the management meeting that I discussed earlier on, where all of the head teachers meet with me every week. We have the capacity to discuss different strategies that we'll be employing across the trust as a group, so we reach consensus. The best way to describe this is that some multi-academy trusts like to operate more like a franchise. They like to be more Costa or more McDonald's. So it's a school out of a box. Things look the same, the colours are the same, there's a uniformity around them. Insignis is not a multi-academy trust out of a box. We're not like a Costa or a McDonald's. Each school has its own individual character, and each school's individual character needs to be nurtured so that it maintains its position within the community that it's part of. Another one is the Mandeville School has a strong foundation in the local community, and how will this heritage be protected? I think what I've just said really helps with that, or I hope it helps with that. The community position of the school is key. The school sits within the majority of its catchment area, so the people living around the school are the people whose children come to the school. So therefore, it is a community school, and it will maintain that character going forward, and that won't change. It hasn't changed at Princess Risborough since Princess Risborough joined the Multi-Academy Trust. And are there any financial benefits to the merger, and what are they? So yes, there are financial benefits in the long term of being part of a Multi-Academy Trust, but the financial benefits are quirky, if you like. Academies have to pay for certain things directly that they're currently paying the local authority to furnish. It's the same costs, it's just that the academy has to manage that themselves. So there are financial benefits over time, but what we need to do is use our ingenuity to create the capacity for those financial benefits. As the Multi-Academy Trust grows, you always are able to establish greater economies of scales then, but being part of a Multi-Academy Trust of 4 schools, that will allow us to negotiate and broker certain contracts for all of our schools at the same time, rather than each individual school having individual contracts. So a good example might be photocopiers. If we are able to organise a photocopying contract that covers all 4 schools at the same time, we would save each individual school X thousands of pounds, because we've got a centralised contract rather than each school having a contract of around 27 or 30,000 pounds each. So we will see financial benefits to the school, and those financial benefits will grow over time. However, what always must be remembered about this is the financial benefits that a school within a multi-academy trust has is always connected to how well the individual school manages its own budget as well, and that's no different to it being a local authority school from that point of view. So it'll always be the part of the central team's job, and my job in particular, with my chief financial officer, to ensure that we're managing the finances of the school to always ensure we have enough money to keep the estate safe, keep the estate up to date, and have the best educational provision for children, and therefore make sure that children have the best access to the best learning environments. I think that covers all the questions that I had, Joe.
Thank you very much, Garrett, and thank you, Joe, for answering those questions as well. It falls to me, I suppose, to wrap things up for this evening. Just to reiterate as well what's been said earlier, that the link with the Microsoft Forms will be shared, and please use that opportunity to contribute feedback on that consultation question. We will continue to communicate throughout the process, through letters and through our newsletter, but also through any other available opportunities we have. And please continue to communicate with us regarding this process as well. I, for one, am really excited about the opportunity that this may present, and it was really great to hear a bit more about what that might look like from Insignis this evening. Just before we go, I'd just like to reiterate what I said at the start, which is that I really look forward to the opportunity soon where I can speak in person with you as parents and other stakeholders around the school. And until then, I hope you have a pleasant evening, and we hope to hear from you soon. Good night.